Hey guys, this is Will at Third and Long. Today we are going to be doing a reaction to the top 25 games for week 1 of college football. Yep, that's right. Week 1 for the 2023 college football season is in the books. So let's go ahead and get started. Hit that like button and subscribe. We got a lot of games, so we're going to try to run through them pretty quickly. Coming in for number 25 this week, we had Iowa playing Utah State University. Iowa won 24-14. Kate McNamara was the quarterback for the Hawkeyes. He's the transfer from Michigan. This was about as boring of a game as it could have been. It was actually a pathetic showing. Kirk Ferentz, he really needs to fire his son. This is now going on the second season starting that they just cannot score points, and not versus a very good team at all. Kirk Ferentz's son said they'd score 25 points every single game this year, starting out game 1, Kate game, and they only got 24. And they were actually outgained by Utah State. That's the funny thing. So Utah State gained 329 yards. Iowa had 284 total yards of offense. Thankfully, they are only known as a defensive team. But if this is what they have to show, it's going to be another really long year for the Hawkeyes. Ferentz really needs to tighten up. He needs to at least be getting 300 yards every game, especially in these Kate games. Come on. Next game that we'll be looking at was number 24, Tulane was hosting the University of South Alabama. Actually, a lot of people picked South Alabama to win this game. They're not really expecting too much from really Fritz's team this year, but Tulane actually picked up right where they left off last year when they beat USC in the bowl game. They won 37-17. Michael Pratt, the quarterback, had 294 yards, 4 passing touchdowns, no picks. They outgained South Alabama, so they had 436 yards. They only gave up 265 yards. So like I said, people aren't really, they don't think that they're going to see a lot from Tulane this year, but so far, so good, but they'll be hoping to get 8 to 10 wins this year. The next game that we'll be looking at was number 23, Texas A&M was hosting New Mexico. This was a pretty big game because this was the first time that we got to see Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino on the sideline today. So the experiment went well. Actually, everything looked pretty good. Now, it was a cupcake game, but it went about as well as it could have gone. Texas A&M won 52-10. Quarterback Connor Weigman had 236 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks, so great things there. That's the best quarterback showing that they've had in quite some time. Texas A&M had 411 yards, and they only gave up 222 yards of total offense to New Mexico. So the defense looked great. They always have a great defense. The defensive line looked excellent. Offense looked good. It's a Kate game, but they showed us just the bare minimum because they don't want to show too much. They do have Miami next week. So far, so good in the Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino sideshow. Hopefully, everything continues to work out good for them, but a good number 1 win versus them, and we'll see how they do versus Miami next week. So in week 1, we actually had 3 top 25 teams score over 70 points. That's right, over 70 points total. And that's what we have coming in at number 22. So number 22, we had Ole Miss was hosting Mercer. And Lane Kiffin had no mercy on Mercer. They put it on them here. They won 73-7. Jackson Dart, who is the returning quarterback from last year, he did great. He only had 23 passes, completed 18 of them, had 334 yards, 4 touchdowns. Spencer Sanders, who was the transfer quarterback from Oklahoma State, he played the second half. He went 8 of 14, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns. So if Jackson Dart starts sucking or if he gets hurt, they have a very experienced quarterback at backup as Spencer Sanders. So good thing there. They threw the ball well. Quinshon Judkins, the running back, who some consider him the number 2 running back in the country next to Blake Corum. He only had 13 carries, 60 yards, so they really didn't have to use him much. That is perfectly fine. Keep him fresh for the conference games later this year. But look at these total yards. So Ole Miss had 667 total yards of offense. They only gave up 235 yards. Great showing there, passing 524 yards and rushing 143 yards. That's kind of interesting because last year, Ole Miss was the number 3 total rushing team in the country, but this year they just came out slinging it. So far, so good. They hung 73 on Mercer. The next game we had Number 21, UNC versus South Carolina. This was at a neutral site in Charlotte. Now, a lot of people picked the Gamecocks for this game. If you go and look at my preview, I actually picked the Tar Heels, so that did work out. However, just like everyone else, I thought it was going to be a quarterback duel. I thought that it was going to be Drake May that actually won the game, and it was anything but Drake May, basically. But great performance by Max Brown. Really good performance by Gene Chizik. So UNC had one of the worst defenses the last few years. Last year, they were god-awful. They did really good so far this year. They win 31-17. Mac Brown got his 100th win at UNC, so congratulations there. But the most interesting was the game was not the game anyone thought it was going to be. Everyone thought that this was going to be a quarterback duel. A lot of people picked the Gamecocks. I picked Drake May and the Tar Heels, but it's actually the Tar Heels defense that won the game. Drake May had some really good throws first half. He had some really questionable throws. So he finished 24 of 32, 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. So really not the best game for him, but this horrible defense. They had 9 sacks on Spencer Sanders. They had 15 sacks all of last year. They had 9 sacks on Friday. So props to that defensive line. They looked legit. Now, how good is UNC this year? I think I picked them to go 9-3 during the regular season, if I remember right, but they looked really good versus an SEC opponent. Now, how good are the Gamecocks? We don't really know. So everybody was judging off of how they finished last year. They beat Tennessee, they beat Clemson, and they put it on both teams. But maybe that was just a flash in the pan, really, because they didn't look good. Spencer Sanders was constantly getting hit, sacked 9 times, but he probably got hit about 30 times. So congrats to UNC. They start the year out 1-0 and get through that first tough game going into the rest of the season. Now, I said we had 3 top 25 teams scored over 70. That's where number 20 comes in. So number 20, Oklahoma hosted Arkansas State, and Brent Venables' team put it on Arkansas State. I feel horrible for them. This was probably the craziest game of the weekend just because they shut out Arkansas State and they put 73 points on them. So they won 73-0. Dylan Gabriel showed the talents that he has, the talents that he was bringing over from UCF. He went 19 of 22, 308 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he did really good. Now, as a total team, check out these stats. Oklahoma, 642 yards of offense. They only gave up 208 yards. They threw for 422 yards, ran for 220 yards. So both sides of the ball, they did excellent. Now, the Big 12 is on notice here. Even though this was just Arkansas State, Brent Venables' defense was awful last year. There was a lot of hype. They did not live up to it. They got torched worse than they ever got torched under Lincoln Riley. This is a good showing so far to actually shut out another college football team. Yes, it's not Texas, it's not TCU, but they shut them out. So they're building some hype behind them coming into this season because Brent Venables completely retooled the defense. They brought in like the number 3 transfer class. I think they brought in the number 5 recruiting class. So they've been stacking it. And now we need to start seeing that start to pay off. But props to Brent Venables. They hung over 70 points on Arkansas State, 73 points, and shut them out. So good job there. The next game, we had number 19 Wisconsin hosting Buffalo. Wisconsin won 38-17. Score doesn't really give justice to kind of how boring and tough fought this game actually was. So Tanner Mordecai, who was the transfer over from TCU, he had 180 yards. He had 1 touchdown, 2 picks. So not a good job. You know, we have Luke Fickell coming here. A lot of hype to the Badgers. I've completely bought in. I love Luke Fickell. The guy is a great coach. I love the offensive coordinator hire. Phil Longo is a beast. He's one of the best play callers there is. And he brought the air raid to Wisconsin. That's a complete scheme change. It will take some time. Do not worry, Badger fans. Phil Longo is going to light it up. Give him time for everyone to get used to the system. This was their first game. First game is always the worst for the offense because it takes a while for the offense to click, not so much for the defense. Do not worry. Things will get rolling. It's a completely new scheme to Wisconsin, who's been known for I formation down the hill running forever. But rocky showing, but like we said, things will start clicking. The main point to remember, Ches Malusi, Braylon Allen. So Ches Malusi, 13 carries, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns. Braylon Allen, 17 carries, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns. They still ran it down Buffalo's throat. Wisconsin had 503 total yards of offense, only 189 throwing, 314 rushing, and they looked really good running the ball. Phil Longo said this is not the typical air raid, but it's a power air raid. So air raid with power running the ball. So good job there. There will be more to come, and they will get more efficient every single game by the time that they get into conference play. Next game, we had number 18 Oregon State at San Jose State University. This is the same San Jose that played USC last week and actually played pretty well versus the Trojans. A lot of people are sleeping on Oregon State. They won 10 games last year. Transfer quarterback DJU coming in from Clemson. I picked them to win this game. A lot of people forgot about Oregon State. For some reason, they completely forgot about what they did last year. So how'd the first showing go? DJU, 20 for 25, 239 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did great. Team did good. They played San Jose State just as well as USC did last week. So they put up 473 yards of offense, 276 passing, 197 rushing. So great showing from the Oregon State Beavers. Hopefully they can keep it up this year. Pac-12 is loaded from top to bottom. Bottom teams stink, but the middle to top, very hard. Next game, we had the game of the week. So TCU, number 17 TCU, was hosting primetime, the Colorado Buffaloes coming to Fort Worth, Texas. This was a crazy game. This was the game of the weekend here. TCU lost. So Colorado wins 45-42. So the 3 people that picked Colorado to win this game, congrats. I hope you bet on it, and I hope you made a lot of money. This was an awesome game. Both teams had horrible defense, but TCU's was just noticeably worse. Chandler Morris, the guy who supposedly beat Max Duggan last year for TCU, he looked shaky the whole game. I don't know what his problem was. I don't know if it's Kendall Briles' new offense, but 24 of 42, 279 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. I don't know what was going on there, but he was up and down. Threw 2 picks in the red zone. Shadur Sanders for Colorado, for his first FBS showing, 38 of 47, 510 yards, 4 touchdowns. Crazy that he showed up his first FBS game. Colorado lived up to the hype and then some, putting up over 500 yards. This is kind of like an air raid game that they played. It was crazy. They were not running the ball at all. The coordinator, I think his name's Sean Lewis, he was the offense coordinator at Kent State, really showed some things. That guy's only like 37 years old. So his name is definitely going to be a hot take here, but congratulations to Deion Sanders. Crazy game. Crazy game. So Colorado, 565 yards. TCU, 541 yards. This game is going back and forth. TCU did run the ball really well. So I don't know if they're going to be focusing more on the run side of things this year, but they need to get that defense under control. It's going to be a long year if they're giving up 40 to 50 points to a completely revamped team that has never played a snap on the team. So pretty crazy. So TCU is obviously going to fall out of the polls. Will Colorado be ranked? I don't know. I don't think they will coming into the poll. I think people are going to want to see another showing, maybe versus Nebraska this coming weekend. But it is very possible that the primetime name could get them into the top 25, and that would be crazy. And what about Justin Hunter? 129 snaps. He had 11 receptions for 119 yards and 1 interception. Crazy showing, but congratulations to Buffalo for beating a ranked team. Next game we had was the Kansas State Wildcats hosting the Southeast Missouri. So Kansas State, this is another shutout. They won 45-0. Kansas State's probably the most not talked about ranked team in the country. They won the Big 12 last year. They beat TCU in the Big 12 championship. Will Howard picked up right where he left off last year. He had 297 yards and 2 touchdowns. As a team, Kansas State, 588 total yards, and they only gave up 227 yards. I don't know how good they'll be this year. They lost some pieces from last year, but so far, so good. They beat this team as well as they could have beaten them. So 45-0, props to Kansas State. Now, previously, I did say 3 top 25 teams went over 70. Here's the third and final one. Oregon hosted Portland State University, and they put it on them. Dan Lanning's team came to play. They won 81-7. That's right, 81. I don't know if I've ever seen a team score 80 before, but they scored 81 points. Bo Nix had a great game, 23 of 27, 287 yards, and 3 touchdowns. They played great on both sides of the ball. They won about as well as they could have won. So I don't know how they came into this season number 15. I thought for sure they would have started the year around 11. So they definitely should jump a couple spots because they had one of the best performances of the weekend. Yes, they played a scrub, but nonetheless, if you hang 81 and only give up 7 points, especially with the faster clock now, you better jump up a couple spots. But they had 729 yards total, only gave up 200 yards. They had 381 yards passing, 348 yards rushing. So very balanced there. Great job by Dan Lanning's team. And Oregon started off the year hot. Like we said, Pac-12 is loaded this year with some really good teams. Next game, we had the Thursday night game. Number 14, Utah was hosting the Florida Gators. A lot of people picking the Gators coming into this game. Not me. I don't know what people were watching. Like, did you watch the Gators last year? Did you see how they played with Anthony Richardson? They were horrible. Their defense was horrible, and their offense was garbage. So why they thought they were going to bring in Graham Mertz and come in there and beat Utah? Yes, Cam Rising was out. But if you've ever watched Utah play, they're the same team every game, every season. They run the ball. They're very disciplined. They play great special teams, and they hit you in the mouth. They play hard on the line, defense and offense. You knew that Graham Mertz was going to get hit, and you knew that they were going to run the ball well. So I never doubted that they wouldn't win, but they did win 24-11. Graham Mertz, 333 yards. A lot of that was garbage time. So Utah, Bryson Barnes, he was there, 12 of 18, 159 yards, 1 touchdown. They had a lot of different guys that they were rotating in running the ball, but their second and third quarterbacks played well. They only had 270 yards. Florida had 346 yards. So they were outgained, but they outplayed Florida. It seems like they were in control the whole game from the jump, from kickoff, but they only had 24 points. But like we said, they had their second and third string quarterbacks playing. So once Cam Rising comes back, they're going to be even better. But this is a testament to Kyle Whittingham, who's probably the most underappreciated college football coach. Congratulations to the Utah Utes. Great game, great win. Billy Napier, the seat's going to be hot. For some reason, I see Florida fans are going to start calling for Urban Meyer to come back. I can feel it now. It's not fully his fault. He has to completely rebuild, and he is recruiting well, but he's an offensive guy, and their offense is atrocious. So make of that what you will. Next game, we had number 13, Notre Dame hosting Tennessee State. Notre Dame coming back from Dublin, Ireland, where they played last week. No jet lag. They picked up right where they left off, looked even better. Sam Hartman only played the first half, went 14 of 17, 194 yards, 2 touchdowns, plus he also ran for a touchdown. So they won 56-3. Last week they won like 42-3. They've only given up 6 points in 2 games. They only gave up 158 yards of total offense this week, and they had 557 yards of total offense this week. So Notre Dame, a lot of people slept on them coming into this year. They're now 2-0, having only given up 6 points total. I think they definitely need to be in the top 10. Notre Dame hype is for real so far. With the horrible showing from Ohio State, they cannot wait to play them because their defense is playing as well as any defense in the country starting out the year. Freeman should be really happy. Golden doing great as the defensive coordinator. Hartman was the transfer pickup of the year to me for college football as a whole. Big things to be expected from Notre Dame this year. And if I'm Ohio State, I'm getting pretty worried because that game is coming up soon. Next game, we had number 12 Tennessee Volunteers hosting UVA, the University of Virginia. This was a very slow start to the game. Tennessee had no Hendon Hooker, they had no Hyatt, and they had no problem. So Joe Milton did just fine, played well. He played, I guess, as much as you would expect him to have played. So he went 21 of 30, 201 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jalen Wright ran the ball 12 times, 115 yards. The offense looked great, but that's Josh Heupel's thing. I love Josh Heupel. So they won 49-13. Virginia is a complete dumpster fire. They are a disaster of a program. I really don't know where they're going. They might win 2 or 3 games this year. So not a good win because the opponent was garbage, but they beat them as well as they could have for breaking in a new quarterback. 499 total yards, only gave up 201 yards. So they played good on both sides of the ball. Great game for them. Good performance. Joe Milton, he's going to have to get better, though, because they have some tough games coming up. But Tennessee won that one. Next game, number 11, Texas Longhorns hosting Rice. Texas wins 37-10. Now, that score doesn't give full justice to just how close this game was. And although Texas was never at threat, they never felt like they had the game. Ewers did not play well. He was 19 of 30, 260 yards, 3 touchdowns. Xavier Worthy, 7 receptions for 90 yards. He played great. They need to find a running back number 1. So they lost Bijan Robinson to the draft. He was obviously legendary there. Texas looked like they had some issues running the ball. Yes, they won. It's the first game of the year, so don't put too much stock into it. However, you have Alabama next week. So maybe they were holding things back. Maybe they weren't taking this game too seriously and concentrating on next week. I don't know what it was. They won, well, but for some reason they just never felt like they had the game. So, but like I said, I wouldn't put too much into it just because it's that first game and the game of the year is next week. So they just might have been distracted and caught looking towards next week. But they got the win, so it doesn't really matter, and they should get better. Their defense at least played amazingly well. So Texas, 458 total yards, only gave up 176 yards. But to me, the main thing that I learned is they need to find a main running back, and Ewers didn't look well. So that's the 2 things that I would be focusing on right now. Ewers will get better, so who's the running back? Next game, we had number 10 Washington versus Boise State. This was a really good game because Boise State is not a pushover at all. They're a really good non-Power 5 team, probably the best non-Power 5 team of the last 20 years. So they came in there, they won 10 games last year, and then you have Washington with Penix Jr. there, led the nation in passing last year. After one quarter, they had no points. They were actually down 6-0 after the first quarter, and then they just lit it up, and they won 56-19. Michael Penix Jr., 450 yards, 5 touchdowns. Crazy. Look at the wideouts. Rome Odunze, 7 receptions, 132 yards, 1 touchdowns. Jalen Polk, 3 receptions, 101 yards. So basically 34 yards per reception, 1 touchdowns. Jalen McMillan, 8 receptions, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns. 3 players over 95 yards. Looking at the total stats here, they had 568 yards of offense, 490 passing, 78 running. So great win for Washington. Like we keep mentioning, the Pac-12 is loaded. A lot of really good teams there at the top. But they got a really good win versus a really good non-Power 5 team. They had one of the more competitive matchups of week 1, and they won 56-19. Now, our next matchup is number 9, Clemson at Duke. That game hasn't happened. That is tonight, Monday night. But I did pick Clemson to win it, but do not overlook Duke. Great quarterback play there. But I love Clemson. I love Cade Klubnik. I love Shipley. And I think the main key is Garrett Riley at offensive coordinator. So although Duke is not a pushover, they won 9 games last year, but I think Clemson will beat them. We'll pick up number 8, Florida State, once we get to LSU. So next one was number 7, Penn State versus West Virginia. This game was close there for a while. Penn State did win 38-15. What we got to see this week, we got to see 5-star Drew Aller at quarterback, 21 of 29 for 325 yards, 3 picks. He looked great. This was his first time playing, looked as good as he should have looked. So the future is bright for the Penn State Nittany Lions. So James Franklin should be really happy there. Manny Diaz's defense looked great. West Virginia, Neil Brown's probably getting fired this year. That's a 3-4 win team. It's unfortunate to say, but that's just the way things are. And they did not look good. They looked lost the whole game. Penn State kept giving them opportunities to get back in the game, and they could not take advantage of it. Running game looked excellent for Penn State. They have one of the deeper running back rooms in the country next to Michigan. Total, Penn State 478 yards, 332 running, 146 passing. Kept things simple. Penn State has a pretty good schedule this year. Things will be really competitive in the Big Ten East, but a good Power 5 win to start the year. Number 6, USC. Now, I said that the USC defense in my predictions would play better this week than they did last week versus San Jose State. I said that they'd be a brick wall, and they were. Props to Alec Grinch for once for his defense playing well finally. Now, I'm not saying that the problems are fixed, but I said that they got so much heat from last week that they'd be pissed off and they'd perform better this week. So USC, number 6, beats Nevada 66-14. Caleb Williams does Caleb Williams things. 18 of 24, 319 yards, 5 touchdowns. They played great on both sides of the ball. They had 668 total yards, 453 passing, 215 rushing. USC 2-0, and they only gave up 14 points. That is an accomplishment for Alex Grinch and this defense, but the D-line is retooled, so let's hope for them and their fans that this is a sign of things to come. And the Pac-12 showed them they will need a good defense this year because there's some high-scoring teams. Okay, so here we go. Number 5, LSU versus number 8, Florida State in Orlando. FSU won 45-24. This game was close up to the fourth quarter. There were some turnovers by the Tigers, and Florida State took advantage of it. Jaden Daniels had a great game, 22 of 37, not very good completion percentage-wise, but there was some drop balls. 347 yards, 1 passing touchdown, 1 interception. He did lead the team running 64 yards, so he overall played great. There was too much pressure on him. Someone else has to step up. That was my problem with LSU. A lot of people picked them to win. In my predictions, I picked Florida State, so I was again correct there. I don't trust the offense. I don't trust everything running through Daniels. I don't think that's legitimate. I do think that they can beat Bama. This is a good team. Brian Kelly is a great coach, but you need a better offense to me, or at least better playmakers on the offense at all of the skilled positions. Jordan Travis, 23 of 31, 342 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, but a lot of other playmakers. Both teams have really good wideouts, but Florida State just took advantage of the game when it mattered most. They won. They're going to jump up big time. Maybe they'll take their spot at 5, but to me, That win should have earned them into the top 4. I do think both teams are overrated, but like I said, LSU is the more overrated team. So next game was number 4 Alabama hosting Middle Tennessee State University. They won 56-7. I mean, really, what is there to say with this game? So Saban did what he does. They played a garbage team and they beat them. So Jalen Milroe, who was the new starting quarterback, he was announced this past week. He played well. 13 of 18, 194 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also ran 7 times for 48 yards, 2 touchdowns. Total team stats here. They had 431 yards. They had 226 passing yards, 205 rushing yards. So a lot of special teams points and defensive points there. They didn't score very many points versus their opponent. So I don't think they necessarily played any better than Texas did. Both teams looked shaky. Texas should have had the better showing because their quarterback was their starter last year. Bama was at least breaking in a new quarterback and completely new schemes on offense and defense with new coordinators on both sides. So good showing for completely retooling the team coach-wise and quarterback-wise. But I think Alabama and Texas both showed a lot of problems. So we'll see what happens next week. I did pick Texas to win next week, and I'm still standing by that. Next, number 3, Ohio State at Indiana. Indiana is one of the worst teams in the country. Ohio State looked like utter garbage. They looked like the Iowa Hawkeyes, basically. Actually, Iowa scored more points than them. They scored 24. Ohio State only scored 23. Now, their defense played great. I said Knowles' team will be a lot better year 2. I'm expecting great things from their defense. But where was the playmakers? They only had 380 yards. Yes, they only gave up 153 yards. They played as bad as they could have played, and they got the win. That's the main thing. Kyle McCord better get better. Playmakers better make plays. Just not a good showing. If I'm Ryan Day, I'm feeling very worried because people are going to start saying that they need to start Brown. So do you still have a quarterback conundrum going into this season now? And Notre Dame's coming. And they're going to want to win. And they're going to play to win. And I think they might win. So they better solve their problems fast. They don't have the luxury to wait. And there's a lot of other great teams in their conference, in their division. Michigan is laughing right now, but Notre Dame gets them first. And things aren't looking well so far. So, number 2, Michigan, Harbaugh didn't play. He has the self-suspension. They did what they should have done. The offensive coordinator was the coach. Actually, he was suspended too, so it was the quarterback's coach who was the coach. J.J. McCarthy played great. 26 of 30, very, very efficient. 280 yards, 3 touchdowns. Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards. They did good, but they didn't have to do that much good because they didn't have to play that much because everyone knew that they were going to win. They won 32-3. Great game, both sides of the ball. They look like the main team to beat in the Big Ten, and they are laughing at what happened to Ohio State this past weekend. Finally, our final game, number 1, Georgia versus UT Martin. They beat the crap out of them 48-7. Carson Beck did fine. He is surrounded by great playmakers. He went 21 of 31, 294 yards, 1 touchdown. There's really not much to say here, because they played a garbage team. And they play a lot of garbage teams this year, but they beat them as well as they could have beat them given who their opponent was. So 48-7, Georgia wins. So that's a rundown of every game, top 25. Really long list, but that's because we only had 2 matchups with top 20. Actually, 1 matchup with ranked teams. So anyways, that's a rundown of that. Hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks.